last week with every staff in the league. We've got this video to show you which has some fouls on it, some potential ejections on it, and some teaching moments on it. Why this rollout, kind of back to our days of the defenseless player. This is a major change, and we want to make sure that from the officiating to the players to the coaches that we end up on the same page. We know it'll take a little time, and that's why we're in this process. Al will take you through what our next steps are, but we've got even more steps after this, in which we're going to have coaches do individual tapes by player group and make sure that those tapes are then delivered into those player rooms so they can see tapes of running backs and what would be a foul, tapes of wide receivers, what would be a foul, tapes of defensive backs, what would be a foul. We want to go position by position so people understand it. So that's why we did it. We had the calls last week. We did 4 of them.
That's correct.
And we got every team in the league involved. So that's what you're going to see today.
Thanks, Rich. I'm going to step over here so I can walk you through some of these plays. But again, like Rich said, it's all about the education. And it's not just education in our players. It goes down to the youth leagues. This has to go into the NCAA, the high schools, and then to the youth leagues. It's a culture change, and it's something that we are taking full responsibility. Like Rich said, prior to training camp, we will have position-specific videos done by head coaches, such as offensive line play, defensive line play, defensive backs, linebackers, special teams, runners. Why? Because this rule is all-inclusive for all players in all parts of the field. So what we're going to see today is the webinar, the same exact webinar that the coaches saw last week, that our officials, we got our officials back this weekend. We had a mini clinic in New York, the same tape that they watched. And again, there'll be a lot more plays that we're going to watch, but for consistency purposes, this is what we all watch. So we talk about fouls. Let's go over the rule one more time. Lower your head. Lower your head to initiate contact to an opponent, and then finally make contact. So you have to remember those 3 things. Our officials are told, you must see the entire play. This is not when in doubt, throw the flag. This is like every other foul. If you see the entire play, if it rises to the level of a foul, then throw the flag. But you must see the entire play. Are there certain situations where this is going to be more easy for us, or easier for us to be able to call it? And again, it's about the education part of it. Watch the players here in the box. I've got a few more shots. Now that you know who the players are. The body language by 27 as he lowers his head to initiate contact to an opponent. And it's important when we say to initiate contact, because there will be some situations where players lower their head to defend themselves. They're not initiating contact. They're defending themselves or getting in a certain position just before contact is made. That's not a foul. To initiate contact to an opponent. That's what we don't want in our game. That's the posture we have to eliminate from our game. Watch the linebacker on this one. Now, in this one, the runner also goes down, but the runner's not initiating contact. The runner just barely has control of what he's doing, and he's protecting himself. He's not initiating contact. However, watch the defender. He is initiating contact. That's the difference in what will be called on the field. The runner is still stumbling. He's not initiating contact. The defender is. And that posture right there is what we need to eliminate from our game. Again, this is about eliminating unnecessary use of the helmet. Watch the defender. Again, that's a foul if the contact is made anywhere in the body. The contact does not have to be specifically to the neck or head area. It is a foul anywhere in the body. That's the posture we don't want. And if we see it time and time again, we must eliminate that from our game. Right there. I'll show you one more. Now, as we told you earlier, this is all players anywhere in the field. Offensive players, defensive players. It's not a position-specific rule. Watch the ball carrier. We're not officiating the results of the play. We're not. We're officiating what that player is doing. He now clearly is a runner. He has opportunities to do other things. He chooses to lower his head and initiate contact on an opponent. Any questions on this before I go to the next one? Yes, sir.
Are these currently showing up in every game? Can you find an example of this in every game, or how frequently do you see?
I don't want to give you a guesstimate, for lack of a better term, on how frequently it's showing up, but unfortunately we see quite a bit of it. So I'm not going to say it happens 3 or 4 times a game, but it happens. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
How do you tell the difference between the player, the runner here, who you say has control, and then the runner in the video with the Browns, who you said didn't have control? How do you signify that?
Great question. If we looked at the other one, I think that was Indianapolis, correct?
Right, yeah.
When the receiver, in the process of catching the ball, and I don't want to get into that right now because that's something else altogether, okay? Do not take me there right now. In the process of making the catch, and boy, we said that a few times this year. In the process of making the catch, he still has not become a runner. He doesn't have control of himself. He's still trying to get control of himself, and he's still trying to get the opportunity to get himself in a position where he can defend himself and or protect himself. That was that. This is a different situation. As we can see here, clearly a runner, clearly in control of his body. Now he has options. And again, in this situation, he chooses to lower his head and initiate contact to an opponent.
So, for instance, you roll ahead here to where contact is made on this play. And the defender also drops his head to absorb the contact.
Yes.
Can you show this to officials how challenging it's going to be to tell who initiated that contact?
We have to see the whole play. And if you look at this here mechanically, we're going to have, the umpire has a look at it. The back judge will have a look at it. There could be a wing official, there could be a deep official. As in all fouls, as in all penalties, if someone throws a flag and we have other information to come in and be able to get the play right, let's go. Let's talk about it. So it's not just one angle. On any given play, we should have at least 2, maybe 3, sometimes 4 angles.
Every example you've shown has been players in the open field. What about inside the tackle box? Guys running up the middle, quarterback sneaks. A lot of times they're at a
Great question. I'm going to go forward and show you one. Well, I'll show you one later on. I don't have it here right now. But yes, we have defensive linemen. A defensive lineman, if he lowers his head and he initiates it into an opponent, it's a foul. A linebacker comes in, he lowers his head as he's trying to get to the quarterback or someone in the backfield, it's a foul. Again, we have wing officials that are looking down the line, and sometimes, depending on whatever coverage they're in, they can see that. There will be situations where they won't, but there will be situations where they'll see that, and they will make that call. Offense and defense.
What about like the quarterback sneak or the short yardage run where, is that still allowed?
Quarterback sneak. The minute he gets the ball, he goes into what kind of mode? Protection mode. immediately he goes into a protection mode.
Okay, so the protection mode, I think you found, I mean, a big quarterback, Cam Newton, a lot of times is not been considered protection mode when he's.
I'm sorry, Steve?
Like a big quarterback like Cam Newton, a lot of times has not been considered protection mode. It seems like based on the lack of calls or whatever. How is that gonna be distinguished in terms of, because Tom Brady quarterback sneaks an awful lot as well. Is that always gonna be protection mode?
I like the way you threw that lack of calls in there. That was good. But when we have a runner, it can be a quarterback, Steve. It can be a running back. If he's initiating the contact, we see quarterbacks sometimes go up the sideline, and at the last minute they want to dance and they want to go upfield and do something else. That's on them. They're initiating contact. If they go into that protective mode just as they're going out of bounds, that's not a foul. And that's a difference we have to look for.
And a quick follow-up, any of those hits we've seen, are any of those worthy of ejection?
No, I will show you some ejections in a minute.
So Al, I gotta admit, I'm still confused again. Tom Brady takes the snap, lowers his head, and plows forward. Is he allowed to do that?
He can do that, but again, he's not initiating contact. All he's doing immediately, as quarterbacks, if you watch quarterbacks immediately, yes, they're moving forward, but immediately they're going into a protective mode. The same thing with the running back that's going through the line. A running back that's going through the line rarely goes up here. He's going into a protective mode as he's going through the line. However, you have a player, a running back, that's X amount of yards deep, or he's on a sweep. You have a pulling guard. Now they have choices as to what they're going to do. Space and distance, a lot of times, will determine if they're initiating or not. Yes, sir.
When a defensive lineman is firing off the ball, and he's low to get leverage, and almost every play, a defensive lineman's initiating contact with his head.
Can't do
How
it.
do you-
Can't do it. He's
So
got to
he's
get
gotta
his head
come
up.
straight up?
He's got to get his head up. He's got to get his head up. He can't come in lowering his head. Can't do it. And a lot of this is going to be coaching. We've had several coaches that says, well, what can we do? You can't coach that anymore. Rich, am I saying anything wrong?
Yeah, so I thought the running play is a good play. The last play, you have San Francisco play, because we did have the coaches say, hey, listen, we've always taught that when you're triangulating, when you've got runners on the outside and the middle, your idea is to lower your head and get as many yards as you can. And the answer to that is yes, it was, but no, it can't be. Right? It's illegal. No, it wasn't. It is now. You got to teach him now that he's got to pick a side of that person in front of him, try to get as many yards as he can, but not by lowering his head to lower the ball.
So basic,
The key to the language is you lower your head to initiate contact. That's why when you get yourself into the quarterback sneak thing, they're not lowering their head to initiate contact. They're lowering their head trying to play over deep yardage, right? Open field, I make a decision, I'm lowering my head to initiate contact. That's what I'm doing.
so,
There were former
Yeah.
defensive players who helped you come up with people who agreed that that's a way we learn how to tackle.
The data is what informed us more than anything, and the amount of concussions that were suffered when players lowered their head, and the amount of force that we then saw from the engineers that was created by lowering your head. That's what drove it. Then you talk to coaches who will tell you from the time that the guy's playing the game at the age of 8 to the time he is pro. No coach has ever taught in the history of football lowering your head to deliver a block. It's been one of those dangerous things, right? We've always learned, don't do that, quick attack and risk and everything else. Now we've taken it a step further and said we need to teach it out of the game and put a rule in, get it out of the game. We did show it to players.
Was there a concern about neck injuries if you're coming straight up and getting contact about like, I mean, is there a situation concussions that would tip?
There is, but the data would be that there's a lot less chance of that, a lot less chance of that than the other.
Yes,
so,
sir.
so basically, if I'm a cornerback and I'm assigned a force to turn an end run up, I can't lower my head anymore. I have to keep it up as I come in to take on the running back.
If you're going to initiate contact, that's correct.
Well,
So you come in with your shoulder, right? I mean,
yeah.
you come with like a lot of coaches that said this going back.
Well, you're supposed to come in with your shoulder. Sometimes you come in with your head,
But that's why you see what you is, you go with your shoulder.
So here's the whole concept of put a hat on somebody is now an antiquated,
Yes, it is.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back to that, that Colts Browns game, I think we're talking, you said the out of control runner was heading downward. Defender, how much consideration is there to the defender sort of naturally following where that guy is? It looked, at least just looked at it a few times there, I didn't sense an aggressive, like, it's like the only way I'm gonna get down to this guy's level is I've gotta move down to that guy's level. How do you account for, if he's standing straight up and the guy either goes under him or around him, how's he supposed to make the play if he isn't naturally taken down to where the offensive player?
He can still get down there, but he can't use his head. He's got to use his shoulder. He has to find an angle to be able to come in with his shoulder and not his head. The responsibility is on the person initiating the contact. And like the defensive player rule, there are situations where one player comes in and he has his target area already. And then because of mitigating circumstances, he tends or he makes contact in the neck or head area. But the liability is on who? On the person that comes in and makes the contact. So the liability is still on the individual that initiates the contact. Yes?
As it relates to the initiation of contact by lowering your head from either side, I'm curious to know from the league's perspective, do you guys view that as subjective from the official point of view, or one that can be made kind of unilaterally? So if a team disagrees with it and they ask for you to review it, would you be more likely to just say, hey, it's kind of at the official's discretion, or do you guys see it as cut and dry?
That's not reviewable. What will be reviewable, I'll show you here in a minute, will be ejections. And I'll show you what the bar is for ejections. So that foul on the field is not reviewable. What will be reviewable will be the ejection. And let's move on to this one right now, and I'll show you. It's not going to be an ejection fest, I will guarantee you. We have to get into a situation where the individual initiating the contact has a clear or has an unobstructed lane, an unobstructed path towards the person he's going to make contact with. That individual has other choices. And as he makes his travels through this unobstructed path, he chooses to lower his head and initiate contact, it is a foul. Here's one example. There's only 2 or 3 examples out of all the plays that we looked at last year, and we came up with these. Look at the space. Look at the space between the 2 players. Nothing in between the 2 players. An unobstructed path. That's important. An unobstructed path. That individual now has choices.
Ooh.
Again, look at the space, unobstructed path. I'll show you another angle. There's your distance. There's lowering of the head, and there's your contact. In this situation, the contact is to the neck or head area. Had that contact been to another part of the body, it's still a foul. It does not have to be to the neck and head area. Here's another example.
But for ejection, it does have to be like that.
No, it does not. For an ejection, great question, it does not have to be to the neck or head area. Here's one more shot of it. That posture right there is what we need to get out of our game.
And how will the ejection be made on the field?
On the field.
And then go to New York?
On the field, and it will be reviewable by New York. We will not bring the referee over. We will not talk to the replay official. Immediately, when I learned in New York that there's an ejection, I'll ask the network, give me everything you've got. I will take a look at it, I will rule on it, and I will say, yes, he's ejected, no, leave him in the game. If we overrule the ejection, the 15-yard penalty still stays.
And does play continue while you review it, or does
No.
play stop?
No, we stop.
Okay.
And we will expedite it. That's why we're not gonna have the referee come over, and we're not gonna get the replay official involved. The only way the replay official will be involved is, he will call it, he will immediately tell the command center, we have an ejection on number 22 white. We need to take a look at it. Yes, sir.
For point of reference, for that play you just showed, was that flagged in the game?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes, and this one was too. Yes, sir.
Al, two-part question. Number one, because most teams tackle less and less in training camp these days, how do you teach players to do this properly, number one? Number two, how do you teach, I mean, this is great to watch in slow motion and break it down this way, but you gotta teach your officials to pick this up in real time. How do you teach them to do that part? So how do you make players better adept at doing it and your officials better at picking it up?
You're right, because we have less time with the players than we used to. It now has to be incorporated in part of their teaching. The same way we're teaching certain defenses, the same way we're teaching certain schemes, this has to be taught, and it has to be put in there. This is important. It goes up there with the same way we teach running the ball and the same way we teach pass defense. It has to be put in there. I'm not gonna tell a coach you have to spend X amount of time with this, but they are, at the end of the day, they are responsible for this. When it comes to our officials, we got them all back this weekend. They saw the tape. They will now get constant video. And yes, this is one of those things that we don't want to teach live, obviously. So video, video, and video. It has to be at the point where they see a certain point on the field where that player performs a certain act. He lowers his head. Immediately, that should get me going. Don't go anywhere else. Watch what happens after that. So when you see the first sign of this foul, which is lowering the head, I've got to stay there. The same way if I'm a referee and I see a quarterback and I see a defender coming, I can't go to the tackle and see if he's holding or not, because I've got to protect the quarterback and I've got to see if his arm is going forward or not. It's the same thing here. Defenseless player, if I have receiver coming across the end zone and I know a defender is coming from the other end, I can't take my eyes off of that for a split second. I have to recognize the tendency. The same way we scout players and we scout teams, we're gonna have to be able to scout this particular foul like we do all other fouls.
Do you guys take like video exam?
Yes, we do.
This, and then show them a series of plays, some are fouls, some aren't, and you're basically saying pick out which one is the right one?
We will show, and that's a great question. It's important in any rule that we show not only what is a foul, but what is not a foul. And to answer your question, yes, we do take video tests. Yes.
A couple more for Al. In terms of the review process, all the ejections, how quickly do you anticipate mechanics of that being able to move forward? How much if at all that kind of impact makes it play?
Well, we've talked already to our network partners, and they understand they play a huge role in this. A huge role. So we're asking them, whenever there's an ejection involved, we will call the truck, and let's face it, they should know it ahead of time, immediately when it happens. They will get us in New York all the necessary angles for us to make a ruling on it.
So what is the standard for ejection?
Standard for ejection is an unobstructed path to the opponent and the opportunity to make other choices, like in this one here. Show you one more example. Watch these two players. Look at the space, look at the distance. There's no obstruction between the defender and the ball carrier. Foul. Automatic ejection. Yes, sir.
Can you order an ejection from New York if it's
No.
not called on the field?
No, not on these plays, no.
So,
That's another rule that we're talking about later on.
so if this were in place when Jack Tatum hit Darryl Stingley, he would have been ejected.
I hate to tell you.
I was there. I was there.
I was around when it happened, but I have to see the play to clearly give you a correct judgment.
Okay. Okay.
But now you're asking how old I am, and yes, I am that old.
The plays you showed, it looked like there could potentially be offsetting. They both were lowering that helmet for contact. Will there be situations?
There could be those situations. There could be two players initiating. Usually what we've seen though is either the offensive player initiates and then the defensive player gets into an athletic stance where he's gonna make a tackle and he's bracing for contact, or the other way around. I'm not saying it's not gonna happen. It could happen, yes.
You'd have multiple
different
places in the field, the receiver.
We could. Again, lower your head. We gotta get it out.
And what
Yes,
if,
sir.
but what if there are two fouls by one team? Will it be walk off, you have to choose one of the two, or you're walking off 30?
Like any other situation, one foul. You choose one.
As far as legislating the penalty, not ejections, but legislating it, is it going to be the same in week 1 as it would be in week 17, or as it would be week 1 of 2019, or is there going to be some type of leniency or grace period?
There's no grace period, there's no leniency. No. This is gonna happen now.
Now we'll take one more here.
Yes, sir.
In college, if you do one of these hits, you get ejected in the second half of the game, and next week you have to stop the first half. Have you all thought about a similar rule?
We did, we actually talked about it. We looked at the college targeting rule, for example, and that's what you're talking about. We now have all those aspects in our rule covering the rules well. We talked about if there's an ejection in the first half, do we just sit him out the second half? We discussed that. If he's ejected in the second half, does he have to sit out the first half of the following game? We discussed that. The competition committee felt right now, the way it is, if you get ejected, no matter when you get ejected, you're out. It doesn't carry over to the next game. However, come Monday or Tuesday, there might be fines or further disciplinary actions taken against that individual. It doesn't stop there. It will be subject to review by Troy Vincent and John Runyon.
Thanks very much, Al.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. It's controversial to say the least. That's a big change in the game, but it's good the NFL is focusing on how we tackle, because that's at the center of the problems that have
I'm not allowed to speak unless I'm
that have been experienced. Be interesting, quite interesting. Anyway, stay tuned for Zennie62 for more. Please subscribe, and I will bring you more from the NFL Spring League meeting 2018 here in Atlanta, Buckhead. Hey, Ira, what'd you think of that rule? Hold on a second. Wait.
Keep your head up, baby.
All right, wait a second. I try to keep my head up.
Keep your head up, baby, no matter what.
It's gonna be hard.
What kind of stance you're in, who's coming, keep your head up.
Now, hey, Tatum and Stingley. Jack Tatum would have been ejected.
No question about it.
No question, right? Tatum would have been ejected. Yeah.
No question.
Yeah. That's what I thought. I was there. No, you know he wasn't. I was there when that happened. Yeah. So, would have been a different game, folks. Stay tuned. Subscribe.
Zennie, I got a quiz for you.
Yeah. Hey, Sam, what do you think? Oh, let me come back there.
Former Raider.
All right. We're gonna go back. This is a Sam Farmer.
What former Raider player
How you doing?
sold hot dogs at the Coliseum and was selling hot dogs? The former Raider player
Former Raider player.
who's related to an even more famous Raider player.
Ted Pollock?
Sold hot dogs, was selling hot dogs a day of the Tatum Stingley game.
And I was there. I don't know.
From Oakland.
From Oakland.
His nephew is another famous Raider.
You got me. All right.
That would be
Time's up.
Lorenzo Lynch.
No way. You're kidding me.
Marshawn Lynch's uncle. The Lynch mob sold hot dogs at the Tatum Stingley game.
Wow.
And he was one of the most colorful quotes I remember as a Raiders beat writer. We loved talking to Lorenzo, and I remember him saying he was actually happy that day because it was like a second halftime for selling hot dogs.
I didn't realize that.
As tragic as that was Lorenzo Lynch's quote about that.
What do you think of this? To me, it sounds like a big change. I
Yeah,
can't
I mean,
see it.
I
can't see it.
Yeah, it's the whole way you hear about. That's been a phrase forever in football. Put a hat on somebody. And the notion that initiating contact with your head now is,
Bad thing.
possibly grounds for ejection. Is
And I'm thinking all
really
about the Skyline High School and playing cornerback or going out, and Coach Fardella he had us force, come down, stop the and run. You do it with your head.
right. Yes, and now
That's
it's
football,
completely.
right?
But you look at some of these, more egregious examples on video, and you can see how you could have a Shazier type injury pretty easily. But
Was it Shazier that caused this reaction?
Well, the league has said no, that he wasn't this sort of flashpoint, but that had to have had some influence on the rule change. But it is dramatic, and now they're trying to define it. To me, I look at it, I would think it'd be really hard to legislate that.
Yeah, that's
and
what I was
to write
thinking,
it.
listening, right.
Yeah, put it into words.
With the speed of the game.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And I thought, I think it might have been Jason Cole who brought up the example of especially with limited practice time now, it's going to be hard to sort of deprogram players who've been doing this their whole career. But but you can see the league's concern about that because, you know, players getting bigger, stronger, faster, and these collisions are increasingly violent. And, you know, they can't abide.
Speaking of bigger, I got to ask you, the new stadium, almost $5 billion.
Yeah.
When does it stop?
No, that's staggering. It'll be $3 billion for the stadium, and then an additional $2 billion for the remainder of the first of 3 phases. And so that'd be the performing event, 6,000 seat performance venue, the lake, the NFL Network building.
Oh, okay.
But still,
I'm glad it's
$3
clarification,
billion.
right.
I mean, the most expensive stadiums right now are both at 1.6. 1.6 for Atlanta's and MetLife Stadium in New York. So almost double that for the LA Stadium. It's insane. I don't know where it stops because, Zennie, you remember we were covering these things when stadiums were 200 million. And people talking about that and less. And the fact that now we're over 10 times that is staggering.
And north. And not only that, the Raiders have to add $40 million advertised tomorrow PSL cost to the stadium cost. Every time you see a stadium photograph or video and you see these drill pilings, keep in mind they're doing it in design build fashion, which means they are still excavating and it's cliche. They may find something that is going to cost them a little bit more to dig because of the nature of it. That thing's going to go north. I predict that's going to hit $3 billion.
Really?
That's my prediction. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I am not. I'd be shocked if you add the relocation fee. It'd be $3.1 billion. I'd be shocked if it didn't hit that. So
That's stunning. I know that there are 9 massive cranes on the LA site right now, and I believe they're bringing in the 2nd largest crane in the world to work on this this next phase of the LA site. So, you know, that's.
Can you clarify? Was it because of earthquake concerns? Was that it?
Well,
because I read that somewhere, but
the stadium is in the landing path of LAX, one of the landing paths, and so there were concerns about, you know, the FAA had certain concerns about radar issues, but you know, just the design of the stadium was to keep it as low a profile as possible, so they're going to go close to 100 feet into the ground, and you'll be entering at the midway point of the stadium, so it's going to be a very low-slung stadium. I can't think of another.
It's a gorgeous thing, though.
Yeah, I can't think of another stadium in the league where you enter at that high a point, and I would think. I mean, the LA Coliseum, you go down a little bit. The Rose Bowl, you go down a little bit, but it's sort of an antiquated idea because it's so expensive to go down to build a stadium. But when you're building in the landing path of an airport, yeah, you want to have a low-profile building.
Hey, he's Sam Farmer. We'll be back. Subscribe to Zennie62. More from the
Always love
NFL.
to get on Zennie's show.
Yeah, I gotta hire him. I gotta pay him.
All right, buddy.